Welcome to lesson 49 of our school year. You will want to make sure that you have your highlighter along with your pencil today. You won't need it a lot, but it will be helpful. Lesson 49, equivalent fractions with denominators of 10 or 100. We're going to go to pages 47 and 48. Okay. So our content objective for 4th grade NF, numbers, operations, fractions, C5. I can show a fraction with a denominator of 10 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Language objective. I can use vocabulary related to fractions to explain how the fractions are equivalent. Social objective. I can work with others to create models to prove how the fractions are equivalent. Okay, so we've already talked about tenths. So that's when the denominator is 10, cut into 10 pieces. Now we're going to look at hundredths. So when you see that TH at the end of the word, that means it's going to be a position with the decimals or a fractional piece. So hundredths, here's 100 little squares. One of the 100 equals parts that a whole has been divided. 1 out of 100 is 100th. So if you take something whole, cut it into 100 pieces, one of those pieces is called a 100th. Percent. Per means through or thorough. Cent means 100. So through 100. The amount per 100, out of 100. So here we have 35 shaded in out of a total of 100. That means there's 35 per 100, or 35%. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, this is where we need our highlighter. We are going to show that these two fractions are equivalent, that they are equal to each other. So 3/10 and 30 are equal, and we're going to prove that right now. So this whole unit is cut into 10 pieces, and we need to shade in 3 of them. So there's our 3/10. So 3 of 10 parts are shaded. Now we're going to show 30/100. So this is cut into 100 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces right there. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 30 of 100 parts are shaded in. But I have the exact same amount shaded in total. They're equal amounts of each of the whole is shaded in. It's just these are cut into much smaller pieces. If I went back and cut all these into 10 more pieces, then I would get the same look as this. The fraction names are different, but the values or the shaded part are equivalent. So this is 10 times. That means it's been cut into 10 more pieces. Or if I wanted to simplify and make groups of 10, I could do that. I could divide each one of these by 10 and simplify or get to our equivalent fraction with lowest terms. So we're going to be looking at some equivalent fractions, which will help tremendously as you get into 5th grade and have to add and subtract fractions with different denominators. If you can find an equivalent fraction with the same denominator, then you can do just as we have done this year, as if they had the same denominator all the time. All right, so this fraction right here is 1/10, 1 out of 10. But here we have 10 out of 100. So 1/10 and 10 hundredths are the same. If I multiply both of these by 10, this is what I would end up with. And when you multiply, you cut it into more pieces. Or if I divided both by 10, making groups of 10, this is the equivalent fraction I would get in lowest terms. Okay, so this one we have 2 out of 10, or 2/10, which could simplify to 1/5 because they're both even. Here we have 20 100ths, which would also simplify to 1/5. Here we have 3/10 and 30 100ths, just like in our example above. Here we have 4/10 are equivalent to 40 100ths. 5/10, or exactly 1/2. If I divided both by 5, I would get 1/2. Exactly half of that's shaded in. And here we'd have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 hundredths, or 50 per 100, 50%. When you hear 50%, that means exactly half, because it's exactly half the amount. Okay, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/10, and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 100ths. With one more, we have 7/10, 10 more, 70 100ths. Here we have 8/10, and here we have 80 100ths. 9/10, 90 100ths. So here's an example. If you are answering 10 questions and you miss one, this is why it's called 90% and not 99% or something like that, because per 100 it's 90 out of 100. Or if you miss 2, it's 80%, 80 out of 100. And then here, when you have the whole thing, it's 10 out of 10, or 1 whole. And then 100 out of 100, 1 whole, or 100%. That means the whole thing. When it's 100%, it's all of it. Okay, so looking at those equivalent fractions with a denominator of 10 and 100, getting used to seeing those two, because we're going to be going between the two to be able to add and subtract fractions. So we've got to make sure that this is making sense, what we're doing here, that these mean exactly the same thing. These are just smaller pieces. And when we have smaller pieces, we have a larger denominator. All right, let's go ahead and do our 3-column notes.